But there's more. You know, sometimes you go to a concert, and if you ask for encore, they just happen to have one other number ready. Well, we're doing this thing called It Takes a Village. It's sort of our open mic period that we're ending with today. But we wanted to say our goodbyes in case anybody was sneaking out, running for an airplane or something. We know, as I said before the break, that all of the expertise isn't up here on the podium. We saw how many dietitians there are in the audience. We saw the media in the audience. You have talked to each other. We've seen how all of our members and the manufacturers have stepped up to make more and better whole grain products. So the expertise is out there too. So we put the call out in that email that she got 10 days before the conference saying, well, if you've got something interesting going on that we think everybody should hear about, tell us about it. And we actually have 3 audience participation presentations that we're going to have here. And I think we'll start first with Emily Ho, who is from Oregon State University. You heard Bob's Red Mill, Dennis Gillum, report briefly to the partnership with OSU. And Emily is doing such interesting stuff that I definitely wanted to give her a chance to say a few words. And then we're going to hear from Stephanie Swane at Modernist Cuisine. And then a very interesting story from some new bread makers in Mexico. So we'll start with Emily. I'll let you have the mic. You can be up, down, over there, over here, wherever you feel comfortable.
So I'm Emily Ho. I'm from Oregon State University. Those of you who were at the marketing workshop yesterday may know me as the fitness yoga instructor in the class. So that's my side job. But my day job is I've been a faculty in nutrition at Oregon State for the last 12 years. And in 2012, I became the director of a new nutrition research center called the Moore Family Center for Whole Grain Foods, Nutrition, and Preventive Health. So several years ago, we were the benefactor of the generosity of Bob Moore from Bob's Red Mill, where he endowed a multi-million-dollar endowment to start this new nutrition research center. So my training is in research, and the center is a research center, but we're a little bit different in that not only do we focus on research, but we very much have a strong commitment both to education in terms of training the next generation, both in terms of our students, but also training the community. So we have a lot of outreach projects in the community as well. And more than that, we want the community to help drive our research as well. We don't see this bench to bedside as a one-way street, that we need to address what the community needs and drive that research as well. So what does my community look like? So I live in a small college town, 50,000 people total. 26,000 of them are those millennials that we talked about earlier. So I am surrounded by young people. And I was astounded when I first took this position so for the first 10 years of my life at Oregon State, I had my head buried in the lab. And I had no idea how little resources there were for college-age students in terms of getting on the right track for independent life and healthy living. So initially, one of the first initiatives I had was to, offer cooking classes for our students. So we have a direct pipeline in terms of first-year dormitories. All OSU students live in the dorms for their first year, and we, in the last couple of years, have provided cooking classes just to provide, so most of these students don't realize that warming food is not the same as cooking food. And it's entirely surprising, it shouldn't be surprising to me, but I was shocked in terms of how, but they want it, but there was just so little being offered. The nice thing about our classes is that I use my nutrition students to teach these classes as well. So it's a fabulous experiential learning experience for our students. Most of them single-handedly say that it's the best experience they've had in their entire time at Oregon State University, so that's extremely rewarding. I also work closely with the dining services on campus. So we did similar things to the Barilla Company in terms we brought in experts from Cornell University with the Smarter Lunchrooms program. I don't know if many of you know that with Brian Wansink. They did audits of our food service and made several recommendations in terms of placement of food, marketing tools that we could use to help students make healthier choices. We also launched several new food products with the food service. We, in January, launched a new grain bowl. It's very similar to what June was talking about in terms of that Chipotle bowl. It's a grain-based bowl, gluten-free and gluten options, lots of veggies, your choice of protein, and students love it. Last data, it's number 2 in terms of sales in that food service. It costs $5. So the debunking you have to spend a lot of money to eat healthy. We're really trying to do as well. Outside our community, the campus community, we have a lot of initiatives as well. So we're a land-grant university, so I have not only the advantage of all the great researchers, both in agriculture, nutrition, and food science, but we also have an OSU extension network in terms of I have faculty in every county in regions of Oregon. And this last summer, we've launched a Healthy Communities Outreach Project. So every county in Oregon has a whole grain healthy community project that was launched this summer. Really, a lot of it's targeting youth. We also use 4-H quite a bit. So in my kitchens, my food labs, during the year, we use them for student labs. During the summer, I have 4-H trainers. We use teens as trainers. Quite often, we have a summer youth program called Kid Spirit, Chefs in Motion, and a Future Iron Chefs program to get our youth eating healthier. And then on top of that, we also have our research. So we have faculty that do research in terms of how to build a better environment, especially in rural areas. So how do we increase the food environment and the physical activity environment? I do research in terms of the effects of whole grains on obesity-induced inflammation. We also have behavior-based research in terms of barriers to healthy eating, both from a sensory food science point of view and also just food choice. So there's a lot of different things going on. The other thing that I want to let you know of, so some of you may have seen this flyer at the registration desk, the Moore Family Center. So I'd really love to monopolize on all this enthusiasm and synergy at the conference today and personally invite you to the Whole Grain Summit that's happening in June 2015 in Portland, Oregon. So the Moore Family Center, in conjunction with the Grains for Health Foundation, is co-organizing the summit. A lot of similar themes will be continued, so again, we can really monopolize on some of this great discussion that we've had at this conference today. Really want to applaud the Whole Grain Council in terms of a fantastic conference, and I hope I can emulate your success back in June. So if you have any questions about the conference, again, I'd love to see you all there. I've got flyers with the preliminary program at the registration table as well. You can feel free to contact me as well. I'm trying to be quick so other people can get up here, and you guys can have lunch.
And now we'll hear a little bit from Stephanie Swane, who also has a few slides.
Hi, thank you, Cynthia, very much for this opportunity to talk to all of you about the project that we're currently working on. And I'd also like to introduce my colleague who's over there. You can raise your hand, Maggie, who's our senior editor, who's also here to attend this conference and learn so many wonderful things that everyone's presented over the last few days. So thank you very much for all the presenters and all the people that I've met between lunch and breakfast and all of the breakouts. So do you have the slide clicker? I'm assuming he doesn't. He's really good, but I don't think he knows my presentation.
Forward, backward, pointer.
I like the big green button. And also, Cynthia, if in fact this Girl Scout badge thing happens, I want a whole grain badge. So here we are. Does anyone know about Modernist Cuisine? All right. So we're basically located in Seattle, Bellevue actually, and we were founded by Nathan Myhrvold. Nathan is not only our founder, but he's also the author and also photographer for our books. We've been around since 2007, and we've published 3 titles. This is just a little bit about us. In 2011, our first book came out, and it's this beautiful set of 5 books that were basically started by the idea of sous vide, which is a long, slow cooking process that is done for meats and vegetables and a variety of other things. But it started as one volume, and it quickly expanded into this beautiful 5-volume set based on the science, the history, and the research that Nathan and the team did. Next, we published this book a year later, really for the at-home chef, for William Sonoma and Sur La Table. And then third, we published this beautiful book on photography in 2013. And also in 2013, we created an app for our home book because our home chefs were asking for something out in the digital space. So why am I here? A couple of weeks ago, we had a New Yorker article that we were featured in by Michael Spector that Alessio actually posted in his speech. It was the food issue, and it mentioned what we were working on, which is bread, which is why I'm here. We're really looking at discovering and exploring the myth and lore around the bread culture. One thing that we love to do is we like to start off with history, so we're discussing not only the history of bread, which is the start of all of our culture, but also the science behind bread, not only around fermentation and the ingredients that we've discussed over the last couple of days, especially grain, but we're really looking at the seed to bread journey. So just like Anna mentioned the other day about einkorn, and she had a curiosity about what einkorn was, we're talking about einkorn. We're talking about a variety of grains, and then also their process, milling, how the farmers and breeding has changed since the Industrial Revolution, and what we're trying to do to get back to the way that we want to eat and grow, both from the Northwest, where we produce a lot of beautiful wheat in the Palouse, and we also have the fortunate opportunity to have the WSU Bread Lab, which Steve Jones also, I think, was mentioned in Alessio's presentation and our article. But with our program, we actually have our own cooking lab. So not only do we develop our books, but we also develop all of the recipes and the product that we create, which is one of those loaves. On the left, you'll see our head chef, who is Francisco Magoya. He was from the Culinary Institute. And next to him is Peter, who you saw yesterday present. We've had a variety of bakers and chefs come and visit with us, work with our team to produce what we think will be the most interesting and exciting bread that you'll see probably in another year. Not only are we working with bakers and chefs, but we're working with farmers, millers, pretty much anyone within the food cycle that we can, agronomists, wheat breeders, nutritionists, scientists, clinicians, manufacturers, academia, historians, and also malters, because malting, as we know, and distillery have become a very big part of the way that we grow grains currently. So this is also bread. So we're really taking a really interesting look and approach as to what we as globally think of as bread. This is a beautiful freeze-dried bread that we've created in our lab. And this is it toasted. So this is what we call toast and jelly. There's my email address. I wanted to keep it short, but if you have any questions or if you want to participate in our program, would love to discuss.
Say just a few more words, Stephanie, about some of the travels that you've been doing researching this book, because when you were telling me about that in Providence, it's like, whoa.
Over the last year, not only has this been a journey for our book, but it's definitely been a journey for me. I've been to Europan, which is in Paris, which features the top competitors for bread around the world. I have gone to all of the BBGA conferences, from the Grain Gathering, which is in Washington, which was the easiest of all my travels. Then also a whole grains for the home baker that they had. Then I've been to Wheatstock most recently, which is in Chicago. The Providence AACC International Meeting, which is cereal scientists. Then I went to Portland, actually. Dennis, who's not here now, I actually got to use the corn shucker in his office, so it's true. He does ask you to go in there and use that corn shucker. I have it on film. Maggie can attest to it. It's pretty easy work. Where else have I gone? The Wheat Marketing Center, which I know Kathleen was here, which is a great resource for exporting. My travels just continue.
Yeah, I mentioned that only to illustrate that
We're
you guys
intense.
are kind of scouring the world to learn about bread, historic bread, current practices, ingredients, everything in the whole scope of it. And as you say, there's no telling when this is going to come out or whether it's going to be 47 volumes or 92 volumes or what it is. But it will be the definitive book on bread, so I thought everyone here should know about it.
Yes, and one of the things with our lab, not only do we have chefs, we also have food scientists on staff. So we really look at things from a very macro level compared to most bread books that are out there. And we really do want to be call it an all-encompassing place for both professional academia as well as the home baker. So we're very excited.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, I forgot one thing.
Okay.
We're actually, right now, if you want to see more of our beautiful images, we're here in Boston. Right now we have a photography exhibit at the Museum of Science, which is going through, I believe, the end of the year. But it's a fantastic exhibit. The other thing that we're very well known for on the first slide was a cutaway. So we cut a lot of amazing things in half so that you can actually see how things are cooking within a pot. We cut a Viking stove in half. We have mechanics and machinists that actually had the ability to put the whole thing together. It's not me, believe me. But it's amazing. And so some of those pieces are actually at the exhibit here in Boston.
Very cool. Thank you very much. And now we added one more interesting story today. Rosie Schwartz, who many of you talked to here, came up to me this morning and said, you know, when you have that period at the end, I was just talking to these two guys and they're so interesting, and you really should invite them to talk about what they're doing too. So this is from Bread Panaderos Artesanales from Mexico, Bernardo Flores and Alejandro Reyes, who are doing some interesting things, and it kind of illustrates how we all take a strange journey to get into the world of grains. So I'll let you say a few words.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm Alejandro Reyes. My partner Bernardo had to leave for a little bit, but yeah. So I didn't prepare anything because they just told me. But yeah, we are not bakers. We don't come from that tradition. He studied economics. I studied international business. He actually worked in economics for a while, then managed a family business. I'm a little younger, so I worked a little bit, but not in anything specific. And then I was involved in a project with him. And then things just started happening, and projects closing, and we ended up on a trip. He was interested in cooking. I'm terrible in the kitchen, so I never thought I would be doing anything related to food. I'm clumsy. I think I'm a little dangerous, but nothing has happened. But he was very interested in that, and you know, it was his world. He wasn't a cook or anything, but he was getting into it. And we went. There's an organization. It's related to missions, and it's just a school, a short-term school, and we were able to travel a little bit. And we were in France, and I studied in France for a semester for school, and I loved the bread there, and it was just different. I didn't think about it. I just liked it. So he was a little, you know, anti-bread. You know, like breads could be bad, so you have to do it in moderation. So I always told him, when we get to France, you're gonna have to try the bread. You're gonna love it. And so it happened. He loved it, and he was all interested in something related to cooking. So he looked for courses, like cheap courses, and we found one in Normandy for one day. So we went there after everything was over, and that was our first immersion to bread, and we both liked it. We both thought it was a very interesting world, and came back to Mexico. And as soon as we come back, one of the culinary schools opened their first European arts and baking course. So it was a short-term course, so we took it, and then we took another one, and we started baking at home, and opened a Facebook page because we had too much bread, so we didn't know what to do with it. But we did want to do something with it, and we started envisioning this bakery sort of thing. Of course, everything was forming little by little. We had an idea of what we wanted. We didn't want to. There is bread in Mexico. It's not part of the table, but it's, you know, there's a culture of small bakeries, neighborhood bakeries. There's a lot of sweet bread. There's the simple bread for sandwiches. So it's there. There's a culture for it. Of course, on the table there's tortillas, there's corn. But we wanted to do something, you know, propose certain bread that's just well made. We were not focusing on nutrition. we're focusing on wholesome, good tasting bread. Like, why is a baguette that's so simple, so good in France, and then you come back and there's just soft bread that doesn't taste like anything? That's just, you never see it as something you eat. It's something you eat with, but not something, it's never something you crave in itself. Like, I want bread with my, I don't know, with my chicken or whatever. But so we wanted to present that, and that got us into bread. And so we ended up, I was telling them I destroyed his oven at home. We had to buy a new one, and it was kind of a more professional one, so it was big. So we rented a small place. So now we really needed to sell the bread. So we're not full-time doing it. He was still closing his other business, and so he used that as an office. I helped him with that, and we would both bake part of the day. And whenever we were open, people could drop by and buy something. If we decided to leave, it was closed, so they couldn't find the bakery they found on Facebook. So they would just drive around and go back. But after a while, we decided we finished the other things. We went full time. We had a schedule. There was a Facebook page, and people started knowing us, and they were attracted to this. It was not part of the culture, but people were looking for it. People had traveled, and they were visiting us. So after a while, we started making money. We were able to hire someone, and from there, we were able to set up a nicer place. And although we never had a focus on whole grains, let's push whole grains. Whole grains are good. If you come here, you're going to be healthy. Whole grains are wholesome food. They are tasty. They improve things. We don't have a lot of whole grain, 100% whole grain breads. We incorporate them. We're really focused on flavor, but also, and we've also been researching a lot. So whole grains are good, but maybe you have to know how to make them. Souring is very important. So every time we use whole grains, we sour them. Soaking is important, long fermentation. So we'll start learning about this, and it's not only healthier, it's tastier. People like it and appreciate it. So we never sell it as a health store, but people trust us in that. We switched to an organic line, but all our flours are without pesticides, even if they're not certified organic. We brought in ancient grains, so we're bringing in flavors, and without having an agenda to be healthy and whole grain, we are bringing this and presenting it to people, and people are not just labeling it as healthy, but they are labeling it as good bread, and a lot of it has to do with the whole grains we use: the corazin, the spelt, the einkorn, and just wheat. Wheat, and we have a bread with blue corn, teff, quinoa. So we incorporate all these things. It's a lot healthier. It's a lot more wholesome. There's so many flavors you can develop, and then we start trying to learn how to really get those flavors. Like Peter Reinhardt, Peter's really focused on. We of course that was one of our first books, Hammelmann's, Peter Reinhardt's, and then Chad Robertson's. And we learn from all these things, the internet, and we start developing this, maybe not from the health department, but it has to do. And now we are very interested in that. We're very interested in, hey, if we're going to use whole grains, how important is it to soak or to ferment or to sour or to sprout, and all these things are very relevant. But I guess the thing that I'm going with here is we were able to, as not being bakers and starting something new, to propose something, and we didn't wait for the market to be there. If you have something good, and I think whole grains have it, you can just present it and learn about it and honor the ingredient, not just force it as an alternative. And people respond to it, and that's what we've seen. But I don't know.